Hello and welcome to today's video. So due to popular demand, here is a video that quite a few people have been asking for, and it's a look at my collection of vintage Penrose annuals. Now these are absolutely fantastic. I mean, you just won't believe what's actually inside them, and well, I can't wait to show you what I've got. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Right then, so here's my first annual. This is the earliest one I've got, and it's by no means the first one. In fact, this is number 17. So, the Penrose annual had been around for 16 more years before this one actually got published. 1895 is the first year. And the first couple that we're going to have a look at, I have already cleaned. They're not recent acquisitions. I've had them for a while, and we'll have a little look through them. And they are absolutely, well, they're just magical, I think. They're absolutely magical. Now, one of the things about these is they're full of like prints and photographs and pullouts and things like that. So often they are found with these bits and pieces removed. It is the nature of the beast that if someone was to come along and find a tatty copy of this, they might be tempted to just take out some of the inserts because they're so nice. And you do sometimes see these like single pages, they've been like framed up or put into a card mount, and then they're being sold individually. But this is a perfect example of, what was possibly a new technique at the time being showcased in the Penrose annual. Now, the thing is, what I initially wanted to do was to show like a couple of annuals from each decade so that we got a feeling for how the books changed over time. But I haven't got two from each decade yet. I'm still quite a novice collector of these. I've only got 9 of the 72, so I haven't even, only just got over 10% of them. And probably by putting this video out, I'm sure a few other people are going to start picking these up as well when they see them, but that's fine. It's quite interesting. This is the London Stereoscopic Company, which is now owned by Brian May of Queen. He owns that name at least. And of course, this was the era when they were doing stereo photography. It was still being produced. And this is once again one of the pre-First World War volumes. So it's very much of its time. But look at this. This is like actual different bits that have been like printed in there. They actually been like pasted in. And the way I understand it was that publishers would actually send samples of their best work, publishers and printers, examples, and they would then be bound into the Penrose annual, every single copy. So people could, prospective clients could have a look at their best work. So you sometimes get book covers, you get like menus, you get wrappers of stuff. I mean, it's just incredible, really. I think for me, it gets exciting when you know in the 30s when you start to see Penguin books get published, and paperback publishers and innovations in design and print. It just gets fantastic at that point. But these have still got their charm. I've been picking them up. I've been paying £15 to £20 per book. Although I got a run of 6 recently at the Bloomsbury Book Fair for like a tenner each they were priced at, which was fantastic. And I even got discount off that. So I can't complain. But that was unusual. When you find these, because the books are so big, and this one and the next one we're going to have a look at are actually smaller than the ones that I've got for the 50s and 60s, where the actual size of the books increases. They always cost a fair bit. So you can find them online for £15 to £25 per book for various years. Some of them are worth more. If they're in wrappers, they tend to go for more as well, if the wrappers are in really nice condition. And because of their weight, they're always very, very expensive to post. Now, doing my research, I have come across copies of the Penrose Annual in Australia, New Zealand, and importantly America. And the American ones do seem to be editions that were potentially printed over there, or at least bound over there, because they got American prices on. So it's not like an American version of, with American publishers. So as you can see, I mean, it would take literally hours and hours to go through it all, but this is just an idea of what was in this this first book. As I said, we've got some later ones which I need to clean up as well, so we'll give those a clean while we're at it, and I'll tell you a bit more about the history of the Penrose Annual whilst I'm doing some of that cleaning. But this one does, from the best of my knowledge, this appears to be complete. There doesn't appear to be anything that's been removed from it. It's just incredible, isn't it? Now, towards the back, this is why I wanted to just do a couple from each sort of decade, is because the adverts can be very similar, because not a lot has changed in the course of year to year, but from decade to decade, they massively do change. So, there we are, look at that. This is bound in Rexine. So yeah, some of the adverts are quite similar from year to year, but not everything is. But anyway, that gives you an idea. This is the earliest one. I've got the pre First World War volume from 1912, and I mean, it's just amazing, isn't it? You can sort of lose yourself in a book like this very, very easily indeed. It was not expensive. I don't have the actual cover prices for these definitively, but it was not an expensive, but it was rather an expensive book to buy brand new, and you can sort of understand why. It was almost like a trade book in effect. Anybody in the printing game would want to get it. Now, that's my earliest one, 1911, 1912. This is my next one here, which is volume 22, which is Penrose Annual for the annual for 1920, and it's the Victory volume. So I believe this is the first volume that was published after the end of the First World War, and this is also the same dimensions as the one that we've just had a look at. So this is classed as the Victory volume. Once again, this one's I've already been through and given this one a bit of a clean. Here we are. So this is slightly lower quality paper than the first one here. A little bit about the publication of it. I'm sure this is deliberate, this sort of paper being used. May have been some restrictions after the end of the First World War. As you see, similar format. Just gorgeous stuff in here. This is, of course, just on the edge of the Art Deco era. Catalogue covers and, as I said, menus and portraits and pages from magazines, prints. Designed for export engineering circular. There's just so much in here. And you can see why often they are broken down to get a particular still or image or something that's been included in here to sell separately. So as I said, we can't go through them all. The video would be hours long. But here's some of the adverts at the back, which is traditional. Amazing, eh? It really is quite something. So yeah, so that's the Penrose Annual, the Victory Annual for 1920. Now, my next one is one that I got at the Bloomsbury Book Fair, and it's the Penrose Annual for 1952. Now, this hasn't been cleaned either, so let me get stuck into this one. So first thing I'm going to do is take the dust wrapper off this. Now, when you find these online, generally speaking, they don't often have the dust wrappers. It's as simple as that. Now, this dust wrapper is paper. It's not glossy in any way. It's actually too big for me to cover it in my roll of laminate, which I do for a lot of my hardback first editions. My roll of laminate just isn't big enough to have a decent wrap around it. So I'm going to have to leave that off as best I can. But the good news is the dust wrapper has done its job and it's kept the underneath pretty nice, actually. Looking at that, a little bit of rubbing there, but I mean, that is excellent, really. Now I'm going to grab another annual there just to rest the edge of this one on. So this one has got these annuals that I got came from one particular collection. They were all the original owner. This run of 50s ones. This is MD Fuller. At the moment, I'm sort of tempted just to leave that owner's name on. I don't usually do that, but in this case, I think I am, until I've found out a little bit more about who they were, because they had a fantastic collection. So this is 1952, so I would hope that this, so this has got stuff from the Festival of Britain on. So look at this picture here. The Festival of Britain book exhibition held in the V&A Museum. Oh, fantastic. So that particular exhibition is quite famous because there was some fantastic books, some award-winning design books were actually at that exhibition. I've got a book on that exhibition, in fact, and Penguin had a lot of books that were put up for the prize, or up for prizes at that particular one. So I'd imagine this particular volume will have a fair bit for Festival of Britain stuff. Yeah, here's some cover to Wisdom. It's a Penguin there. You'll see Everyman Library. You will see Penguin crop up time and time again in this particular annual. The one to really find is the 1938 one, which is very Penguin heavy. There's some festival publications. And pretty much anything that was being published at that time had some sort of Festival of Britain tie-in with the Abraham Games designed logo on. Both my parents went to the Festival of Britain when they were youngsters in 1951. I would have absolutely loved to have gone. God, look at all this. It's fantastic. What a great record if you're a Festival of Britain collector. Certainly the design of it is fantastic. Festival lettering. God, this is a really great one. Worth taking the time to have a proper look through these. Penguin Books. Oh, there we are. Look. Style and mass production. It's a little article on Penguin. I said they turn up quite a bit in the Penrose Annual, simply because as a publisher they always strive to get the best possible quality with their books. It's one of the reasons I love them so much, is just their sheer attention to detail. There's a nice little article there. Look at this. They're gorgeous, aren't they? Wow. And the thing is, this is a chance for publishers and printers to show the very cream of the crop, the best of the best that came out the year before. And you can sort of see it when you look at this, don't you? I mean, just marvellous. Wow, wow, wow. They're gorgeous. And once again, you can understand people pulling the books apart to frame up little sets of prints and things like that. A little bookmark of some sort that can come out. Now let's just flick through. As I said, I do have to get these cleaned slightly. Wow. I think one of the other great things about this particular collection was that, you know, because I bought the 6 books, there was 8 there, but someone else had already grabbed two other copies, was that they were original owner. So they've not been through like secondhand, they've not been massively thumbed or anything like that. These are pretty much, you know, they're bought from new, they've been read the once and then popped into storage or on a bookcase. So they're in great condition, generally speaking. Wow, look at that. I think you've got to agree that's an absolutely cracking book. Now, that particular one is not in bad nick. So there's, apart from the name inside, which for now I'm going to leave, all I'm going to do is brush the top edges of this one. Because that doesn't actually need that much at all. That's nice. And even though the dust wrapper has got, you know, a little bit of chipping and stuff, which is not that unusual for a book this weight and size. Yeah, price 30 shillings. That's interesting. So evidently that was a lot of money back then, 30 shillings. And what's that? £1.50. So £1.50 in 1952 would have been, well, quite a bit in today's money, I would have thought. Probably at least 45, 50 pounds, I would think. Anyway, that's the 52 one. Next one is the 53, which I believe does require a little bit more work. Right, so this is the 53 annual. Now, this has got a nice, shiny, glossy dust jacket on it, but you can see the dust jacket as it's sort of got mottled. It's not looking in the best of shape. So I'm going to take it off, because that sort of thing you can generally clean up. The book itself on first reflection looks lovely. But if we look at the actual jacket itself, you see the smudging and stuff like that. And you can see the size of it. It's just an enormous book. But all this sort of dirt around here, a lot of that we can get off quite easily. So with Mr. Sheen. Now, I haven't got a lot of Mr. Sheen in there, but hopefully it will be enough for what we need to do today, at least. So I'm going to put some directly onto the spine there initially, and get stuck in here. And I can instantly see already a lot of the dirt is coming up. So while I'm cleaning this, I shall play you the audio of what I found when I was researching this. A lot of this came off Wikipedia, so I'll play you that now whilst I clean this dust wrapper. So while I'm cleaning this up, I thought I'd go through the history of the Penrose Annual as according to Wikipedia and other sources. So the Penrose Annual was published from 1895 to 1982. It was a London-based review of graphic arts, printed nearly annually from 1895 to 1982. Penrose began in 1985 as the process work yearbook Penrose Annual. Lund Humphreys had printed the publication since 1897 and has been responsible for its content since 1906, until selling Penrose to Northwood Publications Limited, part of the Thompson Corporation, in 1974. It was edited by William Gamble from 1895 to 1933, then Richard Bertram Fishenden from 34 to 1957. Fisherden's friend Alan Delafons then took over as editor from the delayed 1958 volume, number 52, until the 1962 volume, number 56. There was no Penrose Annual for 1963, and it reappeared in 1964 with a new editor, Herbert Spencer, who continued until the 66th volume in 1973, when the title was then sold to Northwood. Brian Smith then edited 2 volumes before handing over to Penrose's final editor, Clive Goodacre. Initially assisted by Stanley Greenwood, Goodacre edited Penrose until Northwood closed the publication down in 1982. The last volume is number 74. James Moran compiled a special Printing in the 20th Century, a Penrose anthology for Northwood in 1974, citing 34 previously published articles and their impact on the progression of print media technologies. Penrose Annuals remain the quintessential record for the development of mass media, advertising, photography, design and typography throughout the 20th century, from the earliest incursions by radio through to television, and in the latter volumes, references to electronic transmission of information that has given us the internet. Lund Humphrey's adoption of monotype technology in 1906 influenced the production of Penrose. It soon became a policy to try out each of monotype's new types in Penrose. The 1938 edition was notable for its text and binding, designed by Jan Tritchloyd. Articles in issues from that year were authored by Beatrice Wood, Stanley Morrison, Laszlo Moholy Naga, Nicholas Pesner, and other leading design writers. Alan Delafons edited Penrose from 1958 through 1962. Lund Humphreys then had typographic editor Herbert Spencer edit the annual from 64 to 73. Spencer's modernist impact on the Penrose was immediate. His first cover is printed with a stark Gothic sans serif at roughly a 40-degree angle to the spine. Penrose's content was significant in bridging technical aspects of printing and artistic aspects of design. According to St. Bride librarian Nigel Roche, its importance then was largely as a link between disparate areas of the trade. Its importance today is in the seminal articles that it published that still have reference value, monographs on individuals, articles on various matters of typesetting. The publication was most substantial in size and influence in the 1950s and the 1960s. So annuals 1 to 7 were published annually and correlate to the years 1895 to 1901. 8 to 21 were 1902 to 1916. 22 to 42 were published and correlate with the years 1920 to 1940. 43 to 56 were published 1949 to 1962. 57 to 69 were 64 to 76. And annuals 70 and 7 to 74 were published between 78 and 1982. Right, and there is the 1953 annual outside of its dust wrapper. So once again, the wrapper has done a remarkable job in keeping the book in great condition. Little bits and inserts and stuff I will keep. There are bits and pieces in this one. There's a couple of inserts of paper and stuff in here. So see, these are just little bookmarks that have been put in, probably highlighting particular articles. I'm going to take these out myself because I want it as nice as possible. Now, to finish off the cleaning, I'm going to do the top edge again, which is where most of the dirt accumulates. There we are, and we're good to have a look through this one now. So this is the 53. So if I grab this one again, just to rest the cover on. One thing I sometimes do is just run the brush down the rail like that. It can sometimes help out. So let's have a look through here. Look at this little insert. That's what it says. Look at this. That's so I can get it out. In the event of any complaint regarding this book, you're kidding. Please return this slip together with the book to Lund Humphreys, and I guess they'll send you a replacement. So, a review of the graphic arts, 1953. So you'll recognise the format now. This is our fourth one. So you get your introduction, a look back at the last year. So we'll fly through this bit. It's quite nice. Got some book covers there. There's an Albatross book. back over old designs by the look of it. Wow. You just don't know what you're going to find inside these. That's one of the attractions of them. They're just filled with so much stuff. They're just incredible. Toulouse-Lautrec. Just amazing, aren't they? That's this one here. Pop that back now. Oh, it's Braille. The specimen of Braille, yeah. It's actually raised print for Braille. Look at that. Incredible. Yeah, so when I first put these up at the end of my Bloomsbury book fair video, I had so many people comment. There's people on Facebook that said, oh, have you seen these books that were showcased at the end of the Bloomsbury book fair video? And I had no idea that they were going to create such an impression of people getting interested in them, you know. The adverts at the back again. Hence the video today, a little bit before I was planning to do one. I have got another publication. It's called The Printing Review, and that's a magazine. And that came out in the 1930s to the 1950s, and I've got the full set of those. There's about 70 odd issues, and I am planning to, it's very similar to the Penrose Annual, in fact. And I'll maybe grab one of those and just at the end, so you can have a look to see what they're like. Because they're going to be another one that I'd like to go through and maybe just do the highlights, because there would just be so much to show you. Writing paper and things. Look at this. Incredible. Wow. Like a menu again. Wow, wow, wow. Well, I think you get the idea. Yeah. So that was the Penrose Annual for 1953, and it's now got its lovely, as clean as I can get it, just wrapper, because it was a bit grubby. But I think you'll agree, it looks an awful lot better now. Than what it did when we started. Got a few small closed tears in that, but there we are. That's miles better. We got most of that damage off the spine and that, so we didn't do badly at all there. So that was 1953. Now we've got the 1954. Now this annual rather, this one's, it's just dusty more than anything, and I think, yeah, it's just a layer of dust. I don't think we can really polish this one, because I don't think it would do it any good, to be honest. I think it might take some of the type off. Very, very easily marked. Look at the back of it. It's like, almost like scratched. But there we go. So I will take the dust wrapper off, because hopefully, like the other ones underneath, it should be quite nice condition. But yeah, the wrapper itself, not a great deal. A little look absolutely fine on the shelf, but not a great deal we can do with regards repairing it or even cleaning it. See, this isn't going to be a world of difference from the one that we've just looked at, because it was only literally the following year. Although they do say that the ones that were produced in the 50s and 60s is when the Penrose Annual was in its heyday, basically. So we'll just have a little look through the first few pages. Of course, this was Coronation year, so that's why it's all in gold. It's the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, so there we are. So I imagine there's a fair bit of that in here, in this particular issue. So let's flip through. So we're not having a massive jump in style or anything. It's going to be similar to what we've already seen, because we are right in the middle of the 1950s now. But there will be quite a bit of coronation stuff, like last year's was Festival of Britain related in a lot of cases. Yeah, so that's some early bits there. Latest innovations with photography. The stamps, I suppose it's anything that was printed really. And things like this, it's hard to maybe tell on the video, but the paper is like textured. It's not all like glossy. There's lots of different forms of paper, the thicknesses, different styles of printing. It really is a potpourri of what was around and contemporary at that time. Typefaces, for example, fonts. They're really beautiful. Yeah, magazine covers. I said book jackets. It's amazing how little there is online on this. There's a couple of photos. I think there's like a printing museum where they've got, I think, pretty much the full set. One of the very first volumes, the 1895, the very first volume, turned up on eBay just a week or so after I'm filming this, or before I filmed this. And it went for £50. There was no wrapper on it. There's, so I don't think a set would set you back mega money, but I do think a set, it's going to be a bit of a time investment. I don't know if I'll ever get, close to having all of these, but certainly they're now on my radar as ones to pick up when I'm out and about. And it's the sort of thing a shop might have, second-hand bookshop might have one or two of these tucked away. You just, in the art section, you just may not know. But as I said, they are fairly plentiful online. They are out there, but you just got to end up paying quite a bit more because of their weight and size. They're so big and expensive to post. But if you're not too worried about that, you can get yourself a very, very nice collection of these. There we are. So that was 1954, and we'll pop this back into its wrapper. Oh, the weight of them, just incredible. You can't, although I've only got 9 books, you can't actually hold them all in one hit in the hand. They're too heavy. And I think I have got a bookcase sort of put by for storing these, which I've got my other sort of heavy annuals and stuff on, but certainly you need something quite well reinforced, shall we say. Right. So that was 1954. The next one I've got, we do jump ahead in time now to 1957. So we're going to go 3 years on. And this one here has actually got it's a paper, non-glossy dust wrapper on this one. So this is the 51st volume. I said this is supposedly when it was in its heyday, and you can sort of believe it. 35 shillings for this one. There we are. Now, that one's just got, I don't know if you can see it in there, it's got a bit of just in there, almost like mould. And thankfully my brush has got in there and got that out. Apart from that, the boards aren't too bad. It's had a little biff in one corner at some point. Let's do the top and side edges. But I saw a lot of other books from this person's collection, and they were generally in supremely excellent condition. They were really nice. But which makes me quite confident that the books aren't going to need like loads and loads of work. Right, okay. Let's have a look through. Oh, some picture puffins there. Look at that. A century of puffin picture books. They must have just got to number 100 at that point. They are gorgeous, aren't they? They are really, really gorgeous. And this is exactly why I'm picking these up. For articles like that, just magic. So if you're a lover of books, I think you'd be hard pressed not to be a lover of this particular annual, this series, because, there's just so much in here. And of course, if you are a historian of the history of printing, well, I guess these are essential, aren't they? This one tends to be less illustrated and more articles, at least in this part of the book. As I get future volumes, I will showcase them in my monthly pickup videos. So, that's Saxo, that's salt, isn't it? Like a flat pack box. Feel I don't know if you can see the texture on that. A bit of it's almost cardboard. Oh, really, really nice. I think this is where it gets hyped. It's these great adverts and that are just incredible. And some of them are fold outs and things like that. There's a Kodak one there. Oh, penguin again. Different typefaces in use. The penguin look, there we are. Another article that should be rounded up and reprinted, I reckon. Look at that. Lovely, eh? Lovely stuff. Wow. Ooh. Quite the book, that one. Now, I have noticed, I need to get my toothbrush here, because right at the, sort of in there, there's some dust. I'd imagine that's the same, the other end here. There we are. Right. Wow. So that was another great volume, number 50 for 1957, volume 51. God, just the weight of them, handling them is, they really are huge, huge coffee table books. Good stuff. Right, so here's the Penrose Annual number 52, which came out for the year for 1958. Now this one is similar to the 1953 in that it's a glossy cover, which once again has picked up quite a bit of dirt. And I reckon that spine there with a bit of polish, I'll be able to get right up. It has got some tears on it. You can see there's a big closed tear going down there. But we'll take the dust wrapper off to begin with. And once again, it does appear as if on first glance, the book itself has survived rather well. Up to 42 shillings for the book now. It's by no means a cheap tome. And yeah, I'm not sure really what to do about that. I'm half tempted. Once we've cleaned it, I might be able to put just a slither of glue on that one and sort of pop that down a little bit. But we'll clean the book first, starting with the spine, which, as you can see, is in absolutely awful condition. There we are. So hopefully that's gonna. It's not going to be the greatest fix in the world, but it's better than what it was. So we'll put that to one side. Certainly the wrapper itself is much better now. And let's have a look at the actual book. So here we are, 1958. Got the little slip in again. Oh, I was just describing that piece there. And what we should do before I go any further is just do the top edges again. God, this one is even heavier, I gotta say. It weighs a ton. Several tons. This is why they cost so much to send in the post, you know. Now let's look at that one from 1920 compared to the massiveness of the one from 1958. Once again, it's got the name Margaret Fuller inside. I haven't actually researched her, but I will probably do that before the end of this video to see if she was somebody who we may know. Fine binding, newspaper print. What's this? Evening Herald. Pepsi Cola, an advert for Pepsi. Wow. It's like a newspaper within the book. Swiss Air. Alternative folder. Informative folder, rather. Just they're bound inside. Incredible. Wow. I forget exactly where we were. Book just can't be gone through in one hit. You have to do it in several. Latest innovations with photography. Now this is our last book from Mal. That's a penguin as well. Privately printed. It was an Alan Lane Christmas book. Quite easy to get, that one. Yeah, this is our last one from the 1950s, and then we've got a couple from the 1960s to look at. The 70s ones are definitely out there, and they're not overly expensive, so I will, once I've got another batch of these, I'll definitely do a follow-up video if you like this one. So don't forget to like the video and give it the thumbs up, and do hit the subscribe button if you've not already, because then you won't miss the next time I do one of these. So let's put this back into the slightly restored wrapper. There we are. So that closed tear there, I've just put a little bit of light Pritt stick in there just to stop it from getting any worse. Well, I did a quick bit of research, and there is a fairly famous Margaret Fuller, but she died in 1850. So nothing to do with the Margaret Fuller who originally owned these books. So this is volume 54. This is the one for 1960, and this one has got like a see-through wrapper around it, which I'm going to take off now. 42 shillings was the original price for this one. If you have a look at this wrapper, in actual fact, there are a couple of little marks and things on it which would warrant giving it a bit of a clean. Putting a bit of polish on this one. You can just see now that we've got it off the book, you can see it's done its job, but there are some little marks and stuff. So it's not going to take a lot, but I think it's worth putting a bit of polish on. If I can find a clean bit of the cloth here. Well, there certainly have been dirty books, but this one had a little mark there, which is coming off now. That was something that actually stuck to the wrapper on that one. So that's got that off. So this, I don't think it's going to need a lot, just to take off the surface gunk, really. It's the same principle as a normal dust wrapper, really. The where it folds over, it's the edges, that's where it tends to pick up the muck. But once again, I think this is the sort of one, this dust wrapper, that is potentially quite difficult to find in nice condition, you know, because the ones I've seen online haven't been that great, in all honesty. You know, condition-wise, so who can tell? But so I'm not going crazy on this, but there was some dirt, definitely, which I think we've pretty much addressed there, as best I can see, considering the wrapper is... Well, I don't think I've ever seen a dust wrapper like that. It's really bizarre, isn't it? It's I don't know how best to even describe it. It's, well, it's like a traditional sort of book reading jacket, isn't it? But anyway, the main thing is it's done the trick because it's kept this annual rather, in absolute tip-top shape, with the exception that the top has been foxed. So there's not a massive amount we can do about that foxing. Obviously, we can clean it initially, and it's surprising how much can come off just with a brush, you know. But the only real way I found to sort of get that off is use my soft rubber, and it just sort of takes off one edge of it. The other option is use an ink rubber, and it does sort of take off a little bit of the top edge there. I mean, it already looks better than what it was. The other thing you can do is actually get sandpaper on it, very, very fine sandpaper, which I have done on some really vintage books, but I don't think the rest of the book's quite presentable. I don't think it's that detracting, to be honest, so I'm going to just leave it at that for now. Right, and there does appear to be some sort of insert. It's this thing that's poking out. Okay. Right, let's get my other book under here again as a wedge, and let's go through up to that point then. Now this one is slightly smaller in format. There's not so many pages in here, so make of that what you will. Maybe the 50s was the absolute heyday, but it did say 50s and 60s were when the Penrose annual was absolutely in its peak with regards content and innovation. The introduction stuff again. I said it's like newspaper here. It's in Japanese, this one I see. It's a Japanese newspaper that's been reprinted. Absolutely crazy, that. But yeah, unless you went through every single page with a fine-tooth comb, you're going to miss a few bits and pieces, but hey, it may spur you on to get your own copies of these. I don't know. Look at these. Beautiful, beautiful adverts, aren't they? Very, very, like, extravagant. I'm doing my best to try and keep these in picture, but it's not easy, I'll tell you that. Go back again. I showed this last time. It was an advert for, well, not an advert. This is the actual packaging for Cadbury's chocolates. Look, a pound of chocolates. I think this is like a bag, and then pork sausages, Kingston's pork sausages. I mean, that's beautiful, isn't it? In the Cadbury's colours, gorgeous. Wow. Yeah, amazing stuff. Absolutely crazy. So anyway, that was the annual for 1960, and we do have one more to look at. Just pop this one back into its dust wrapper, and it's interesting that the wrapper doesn't go all the way to the top. It's like a couple of millimeters short, so whether that's deliberate, I don't know, but it certainly looks nice and clean now. Oh, they look great all lined up. I'll show you those in a minute. So the last one I've got is my most up-to-date one. This is the one from 1966. And once again, this one hasn't been cleaned and it's come from a completely different source. So let's get into that one now. So first off, the dust wrapper, it's not in the greatest of shape, this dust wrapper. So let's get it off. Pop the book up there a moment and have a look. So it's got a few, you can tell it's times have changed. Let's have a look. So it's got a closed tear there. Yeah, it's not bad. But I think the real bad bit is that little bit of a closed tear. And we could do, just like we did last time, is just slip a bit of glue in that little hole there. I'm just going to use Pritt stick and smear a bit on with my screwdriver here, just into that bit there, just to sort of put that back in. It will just stop it getting any worse, because these are the sort of books, when they're picked up and handled, a little thing like that could really damage it. It could just make it much, much worse. I will also, while we're here, give it a polish. Because of the design of this one, it's a bit tricky to see exactly where it's dirty, but it is a little bit dirty. I said I don't know the history of this one. I bought it through eBay, and it was an eBay seller which was a charity shop. So I guess it was one that they had donated, and they saw that they were making a bit of money, so they decided to pop it online. And I'm always happy to support a charity like that. But sometimes things don't always get packaged up properly, because it's just, volunteers. It's not their job or anything, and I think that little tear actually happened when the book was being packaged up, but that's okay. These things happen. I got this one for 15, which I didn't think was too bad. That's it's my most up-to-date one. I haven't got any from the 70s. I haven't got any of the 80s, but they're all up there. They do tend to get listed. So this one for 1962 was 50 shillings, which is no small amount of money. Anyway, that's the wrapper done as good as possible. Now the book itself also isn't perfect. There are some marks on it, so we might need to get the old brush on here. Yeah, you can sort of see where the dust wrapper hasn't covered it. Right, I think all we can do is have a look through and see how we get on. I've not looked through this, so I've got no idea what it's going to be like. And it's upside down. Let's try that again over that way around. Here we are. Look, it was a prize book. So this was Gloucester College of Art, the Gloucester College of Art Printing Department, presented to Philip Smith for work in progress during the session 65 to 66. So we've got a little insert here, which is a look at different typefaces. I suppose that may not have come with this book. It may have been an insert, but it makes sense to sort of keep it together, doesn't it? Yeah, you can see the change in design, can't you? We're jumping ahead quite a bit here. Another 6 years or so. Well, let us flick through this first bit. Some corrugated paper there, like a box. Actually, we don't need this other one underneath. That's just making it worse. A colour chart there. So over time, of course, the Penrose Annual went all the way up to the very early age of computers, in actual fact, and digital printing. It just sort of touched on that before the magazine or the book folded. So I am looking forward to getting some of the later volumes to see just how advanced it got, really. But for me, I suppose the dream period, I'd like to pick up some stuff from the 30s and 40s when Penguin started and see what's included in there. Certainly the 1938 one I'd particularly like to get my hands on, being so focused on Penguin. But yeah, this one actually, yeah, it's okay. I mean, yeah, there's nothing like wowing me in it so much, this one. But still nice. Oh, look at that. Well, there you go. That makes up for it, doesn't it? With a nice Pan edition of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. What is that then? Secret. Part of this annual is printed on Mellowtex, smooth white, double cream, double crown. Wow. Well, look, there's a few Pan books there and a Penguin. It's a fact. The cover of a paperback often helps to sell a book. Pan, the publishers of James Bond books, know it. So do the publishers of Penguin books. That's why jacket design is so much more imaginative than it used to be, and explains why Ivorex is being used increasingly for paperbacks. There we are. So there's a few Pans there and a few Penguins up there as well. Penguins, pelicans. So there we are. That's quite nice, isn't it? So once again, there's so much connected to paperbacks, if that's your thing as well, which evidently mine is. How cool is that? So there you go. So yeah, perhaps not as filled with so many great adverts, this later one, but you know, it may just be the odd year. Who can tell? It's nice, isn't it? Nice big fold out. That's very much of his era, isn't it? Awesome. Well, let me line them all up for you and you can have a look at the whole collection. Well, there's my run, such as it is. So as I said, I've only got the 9 books, but they are really, really fantastic, and I do very, very much enjoy them. I mean, they're just really, really great. So I think you'll agree, if you fancy collecting the Penrose Annual, then, well, you know exactly what you're going to be getting into. Now, I did mention also that I'd show you a little bit of the printing review. Now, as I said, I've got the whole set, but it would take hours and a series of videos to go through them all in detail. So I'll just show you a couple of odd issues right now, just so you get a feel for it, and I'll do a dedicated video on the printing review quite soon. Okay, so I pulled out just a handful of issues of the Printing Review magazine. Now, first of all, it is massive. It really is it's like tabloid size. And it started in the mid-1930s. It went up to about 1959. There's just under 80 issues of it in total. It was quarterly. And I've actually got the full set. I've got every one. So this is very similar to the Penrose Annual. I just flicked through a few in that it was sort of like a printing trade magazine. So you get the similar sort of adverts for stuff, but you also get inserts. Now, it's not like a Penrose Annual where you get a year's worth in one, but in each issue you get some sort of inserts and special features and things like that. Penguin, once again, turn up a lot in this magazine, and I'm going to go through and try and document all the appearances of Penguin, and possibly maybe we might be able to get them reprinted somehow for the Collectors Society. But there's an issue specific to the Festival of Britain. There's one on the Coronation, which is very good as well. So key events are celebrated. As you can see, there's stuff absolutely inside every single issue. And once again, it's very much along the lines of the Penrose Annual, you know. But in magazine form. I said it was a quarterly magazine. It wasn't cheap. You had to subscribe to it. You couldn't buy it in Smith's or anything. So it's very much like a trade magazine. But that one, why was that 52? I just pulled a few off at random. This is number 59. So what I think I do, because once again there's so many, there's like 80 just under to go through, there's 79 issues. I'll go through them myself when I put them all back into order, and the highlights I'll flash on here, because there's bound to be plenty. But if once again you're interested in books and history and printing, I think you'll get a lot out of this particular magazine. It's quite collectible. Printing Review issues generally, they vary in price. Some are worth more than others. The Festival of Britain one tends to go for, I've seen it go for upwards of 100, if you can believe it, for the one just on the Festival of Britain, because it's so nice. I mean, it is amazing. I couldn't find it, but I have got it, so I'll show you that one when we do like these in depth. There's also a penguin one, which I have got because it was right at the top of the pile, which I will show you now, which is a real beautiful penguin collectible, and that one goes for about 75. There is the Penrose annual for 54, the one that we've literally just looked at. Although it doesn't show it in its golden cover. I said you get all sorts in these things. Printers catalogues. Here's the penguin one, Printing Review for number 72. This is another very, very collectible one, as you could imagine, because it's all penguin related. I've only ever seen a couple of copies of this. It's supremely rare. It hasn't been reprinted by the Penguin Collectors Society, although I think, as I said, I might try, look at this stuff, I might try and get this reproduced somehow so that we could do a reprint of it maybe. But it's fully, this is Penguin's 21st anniversary year, so there's a lot in here. I think that's what they're celebrating. A lot of these pictures were first printed in the Penguin story, but that was just in paperback size, and this is obviously, this is much, much bigger. These photos of Penguin's warehouse and that. That's brilliant, isn't it? Penguin panorama. So, gorgeous, isn't it? So anyway, if you're going to find any of them, that's the most collectible one, followed by the one on the Festival of Britain. Anyway, there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed looking through the Printing Review briefly, and my small collection of just 9 Penrose annuals. Certainly I've enjoyed what I've collected so far. I mean, the biggest concern is the actual space they take up, because they are enormous, but they're such fun to collect. I'm not going to stop collecting it just because I haven't got the room. When has that ever stopped any collector, eh? Anyway, if you've enjoyed looking through these and today's video, then do please give the video a thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage paperback and book content, and I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.